Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Game Developer Podcast. I'm your usual host, Senior Editor Bryant Francis.
And I'm Content Marketing Manager for GDC, Beth Elderkin.
And this is GDC Side Quest. Hey, Beth, you heard about this game from Sandfall Interactive and Kepler Interactive called Clair Obscur Expedition 33?
Yeah, it's a real up-and-comer. Keeping an eye on it.
Yeah, it didn't just totally sweep all the award ceremonies, basically, that it's been in. Clair Obscur Expedition 33, one of my top games from 2025. I could wax on poetic about the amazing story, like the incredible combat, the parry system that was so good, it gets people who don't even like parry systems in games to try it out. But if you go wander around professional scenes, sometimes what you hear the most is about the team size of Sandfall. And to be sure, the core team for this game, it's Sandfall Interactive, being under 40 people. The full credits, encompassing the full game development community that brought this game to life, it's about 350-ish. But at GDC, we between you and me, we had two different opportunities to explore and dive into what makes this game so special from both a technical perspective and creative one. I went to their talk where they explained how they used Unreal Engine blueprints to make the game, and you, down on the show floor at the Commons area, got to interview Jenniver Svedberg-Yen about the writing of Clair Obscur. That's correct, right?
Absolutely. So Jennifer is the lead writer for Clair Obscur Expedition 33. She was actually the third person brought onto the project after the co-founders. And she was also the voice and localization producer as well.
Yeah, which is one of those, on small teams, you wear a lot of hats, things that, many of our listeners can relate to. What I really liked about the fact that we got to tackle the game from these two angles at the show is that when you think about this game, there's so much to explore about this game, what makes it wonderful, and sometimes to break through the noise of the discussion, of the broader discussions, you really need to get down to these one-to-one moments with these devs, whether it's in a session, whether it's in an interview. And I really think there's so much there. These guys are so willing to talk about their process. It's so neat.
Yeah, it was really great getting a look behind the curtain at their writing process and their writing discovery.
Mm-hmm.
One thing you'll hear in the interview is we talk about how some of the stories came about, the bigger themes. By the way, spoilers, just to let everybody know, if you have not played the game, you might want to wait because we go all out all the way till the end of the game. But yeah, when we were talking about how the narrative came together, one of the things that really stood out to me was the personal stories that inspired them to bring into the story. For example, one of the co-founders' moms, he asked her, "What's your biggest fear that you have?" And she said, "My child dying, losing my child." And that is why that story is in there. And it gives it just such a personal touch, and it just kind of helps you understand what's so relatable about the story because it has those real human feelings that come from a very, deep and introspective place.
Yeah. And sometimes those feelings are hard to talk about in person, with each other. So sometimes you need a big epic fantasy with painting in a painterly world, if you will, to process those and to connect with other people like that. But without further ado, because you and I could talk about this game for hours, let's go ahead and jump to your interview straight from GDC. Take it away, Beth.
Welcome to the GDC Side Quest podcast, part of the GDC Festival of Gaming, where we talk about the full game ecosystem. And hello to all of you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hello.
I am here with now GDCA winner, Game Developer's Choice winner for Best Narrative.
Thank you.
Jenniver Svedberg-Yen, although I know I'm saying that wrong, so if you wouldn't mind correcting me.
It's okay, I say it wrong too. It's Jennifer Svedberg-Yen, but I'm not natively Swedish, so only my husband can pronounce it correctly.
And you are the lead writer as well as the voice and localization producer for Clair Obscur Expedition 33, which won 5 awards at the Game Developer's Choice Awards. How many awards has this game won so far? Because all I can hear is Clair Obscur, Clair Obscur, Clair Obscur. Pretty much any time I'm turning on these award shows.
I don't know. But very, very happy and grateful for that. Yeah.
So since we are on the GDC Side Quest podcast, I wanted to start by asking you, what is your favorite video game side quest?
Oh, that is so hard. How do I choose just one? Oh, wait, okay. Now, see, now I'm thinking through all of the ones that I've done, and I'm like, wait, how do I? Okay, I'll do the one that I've done most recently. I was playing actually Spider-Man 2. Yeah, and there's some really, really sweet side quests involving. Actually, you have to go and revisit some of the places that you around the city that are meaningful, and also you have to go pick up this one sort of little cube thing that's a reference to Spider-Man Miles Morales.
Oh, right.
So that was actually really cool. It was a nice callback to the prior game.
And the Miles Morales cat. I just remember the cat from Spider-Man Miles Morales.
Yes, that cat is the best cat ever. Yes.
Well, Clair Obscur Expedition 33 has been getting acclaim for so many reasons, not least of which is the narrative, the story. You were there since nearly the beginning. Can
Yeah.
you tell us how everything got started?
Oh, yeah. Well, when I joined, there was no studio actually. Guillaume and Tom, who are two of the co-founders, they were actually still at Ubisoft at the time. And Guillaume was teaching himself how to use Unreal Engine and learning everything. And I just sort of joined by accident. They were doing a little technical test, and Guillaume needed some voices to say a couple lines and put together a scene. And he was looking for folks on Reddit and the subreddit record this for free. And I happened to be bored during COVID. I'm not a voice actor, but I thought it might be fun, so I did it. And that's sort of how I started. And from there, it was sort of like it really was sort of like an actual RPG where you're just assembling your party, where Guillaume found Lorian, our composer, through a random small forum, and they exchanged SoundCloud and files. And he found our art director, Nicolas Maxon Francombe from ArtStation. And so, yeah, it just sort of kind of built from there. And the final piece was our COO and third co-founder, Francois Maurice. And it just started growing from there. Then they officially started the studio. And I actually designed the studio logo. That's how early I was.
Ooh.
Yeah. And yeah, so from there it was just we started thinking about, okay, what kind of story do we want to tell? Guillaume had been working on another story previous to that, but after some advice from various advisors and investors, we thought, oh, actually, what about something that is closer to the identity of the studio, something that is more distinctly French? And that's where we landed on the Belle Epoque. And Guillaume and I came up with the idea for Expedition together. He was inspired by a painting that sort of sparked an idea in his head about a countdown with a monolith and a paintress. And I separately at the time was actually writing a short story based on a dream that I had that was about, spoiler alert, a woman who enters into paintings and wants to bring her mother back out of a painting. So we decided we're gonna just smush those ideas together. And the final element actually came from Guillaume's mom. He asked her, what's the worst thing that can happen to you? And she said, well, losing one of her children. So we're like, okay, that's how we're going to bring these two pieces together. So apologies for the trauma to everybody, but you have Guillaume's mom to thank for that.
Well, it's amazing how it's such a big macro story involving an entire world, an entire civilization, but in the end, it's a story about one family's grief. How did you find the right way to balance between, this giant narrative that's inevitably very simple and small in its nature? Not simple, smaller, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was, I think to help us sort of stay focused, we always come back to character and understanding where the characters are in their emotional journey and how they are reacting to the things that are happening around them. Because no matter how fantastical the situation, how high the stakes, how large the battlefield, it all revolves around individuals and the relationships with each other. So it's sort of always just grounding it in their relationships and their emotions and their mental state was sort of how we could make sure we told the story with the full emotional weight and make sure that we found the individual within the large scale.
What character, scene, or moment or decision are you most proud of helping to create?
Oh, that's a hard question. um There are so many. I think that um, one of the places that we spent a lot of time on were the relationship dialogues. And these sequences were really an ability to delve deeper into each of the supporting characters and their individual emotional arcs. And their individual emotional arcs support the larger discourse and ties into a lot of the themes because they're all sort of slightly related around identity, around autonomy, around the duty we owe to each other and to ourselves. And so I think I'm quite proud of how we were able to build very deep, very fully fleshed out characters through these relationship dialogues and help people understand a bit about their journey, but also how it also fits into the broader context. And at the end, when we ask you to make an impossible decision, you have to weigh all of these various, the stories of these very personal, these personal stories of these characters against what you feel needs to happen for the outcome of this world.
All right, so everyone raise your hand if, like me, you chose Mael and then regretted it immediately. Oh my gosh, I'm so alone. I feel so terrible now.
Who chose Mael and didn't regret it? Yeah.
Oh, now I feel even more conflicted. What decision did you pick first?
Okay. People love asking me this question, and as like a writer, these two endings were designed together from the very beginning. It was always meant to be a duality, and they really need to be understood within the context of each other because we are really asking the player, whose happiness are you going to prioritize? And also asking you to consider what is the cost of that happiness? What is the cost of that ending? So you have to sit with both and then you have to make that choice. And so each of them are beautiful in their own way and bittersweet and sad and heartbreaking in their own way. But that's unfortunately sometimes reality, and you have to make that choice. So for me, it's not a simple, oh, choose A or choose B. The two of them are together like two sides of the same coin.
I remember when I was playing through it and I first got onto the beach and you see Renoir coming into frame, I was like, okay, I got this on lock. I know exactly what's going on. That's Gustav, aged about 20 or 30 years. Oh, wait, no, it's aged Verso because we had another thing happen.
Yeah.
Were there intentional misdirects that you put in there? Because we've seen so many fan theories coming out throughout the game.
There might be a few, yeah. I think we are fans of twists. We are fans of very nuanced double meanings. So since you've actually played New Game Plus, like there was a lot of dialogue that was designed for that. Because when you first encounter some of what Verso says, what Renoir says, you think you understand what they mean. And then you play it again and you realize they were actually talking about something else, or it actually meant so much more. So yeah, there's a lot of those kinds of things.
Definitely feels like you're in on a secret when you're playing it again, which is one of the reasons I chose to play it again. Another thing that you can see is how, it's so embedded in French culture and French language. I minored in French in college, so I played some of it in French, but also you have some of those words coming through, some of it coming in the songs, as a localization producer, how did you ensure that the French identity of this story translated not only into English, but also into all the other languages?
Yeah, so we actually had a very focused discussion with our localization teams across every single language. And we asked them, what are some ways that we can instill that feeling of Frenchness in your local language? And they all came up with very interesting strategies, specific to their language. So for instance, in Korean, they were saying, if you transliterate certain words just by how you pronounce it in French, it sounds one way. However, in the Korean language, they associate certain sounds more with the French language. So even though it's not precisely the right transliteration of the French pronunciation, if we change it that way, it feels more French. Right. And so so a lot of the words, we thought about which ones do we want to actually translate, which ones do we want to actually just transliterate in the sense that it sounds like the French word. And so there was a lot of thought putting into that. And especially in the some of the European languages that are closer to French, some of the localization team, they said, oh, actually, we'll just keep the French words entirely. And that is actually completely fine. And then we'll italicize it or we'll format it in a certain way so that the audience knows this is specifically French, and that preserves that feeling of Frenchness. And of course, we have the French swear words. Yeah.
What is your favorite, or actually, no, I'm not going to say your favorite. Because Elements Converge randomly pops into my head when I'm just doing the laundry or doing anything like that. Are there any of those character exclamations during the battles that just are stuck in your head?
Harriet! Yeah, and an advantage.
Oh, yes, yes. One of the big themes, at least that I felt when I was playing through this game, is how, art is life and life is art. How life is an expression of the art that we have within ourselves. And it is such a visual game. It's no surprise that it won for, so many visual accolades. How do you...
Nicholas and the art team are amazing. They're so talented.
Absolutely. Absolutely gorgeous. How did you, in the narrative, help support that visual feast, that visual element, to make sure that not only in how it's looking, but how it's sounding and presenting, it all fits that theme?
I think this comes back to sort of a writing philosophy that even when we have these very fantastical situations with a paintress who's gommaging people and people are like dying and there are nevrons, with all of these fantastical situations, I'm a huge science fiction fantasy nerd. I love all of those books and stories, but what I love most is that they're all rooted in and grounded in the characters and their journeys, their relationships with each other. So that kind of brings you back to the familiar, even when the situation is just completely outside the realm of what our normal everyday is. And so, to answer your question, yeah, it really was about finding the real emotions within each moment. Part of that involves really understanding where each character is coming from, understanding their history, how they were shaped by their family, their society, and the things that have happened to him, right? Because I honestly believe that what you've experienced helps shape how you see the world, and how you see the world then in turn shapes how you talk and how you interact and how you react to things. And so we base it in that. And then we also, when writing it, try to really find the moments in our own lives as writers, that moment of resonance, where even though we might not have experienced the exact same thing, we might have experienced something in parallel, something that brings up similar emotions. And so as writers, we sit in that emotion, we sit there and we feel it, and we think about the ways that, what are we feeling? How would the character react in this situation? What kind of words would the character use? And we bring all of those pieces together and find that kind of commonality.
Are there any examples for you, particularly of a memory or a thought or a reaction that you had, and how you brought it to the character or story?
Yeah, actually. So for instance, when Mael says, oh, you're gonna try to offer your condolences, but like, can I swear? Am I allowed to
Yes,
swear?
yeah, you're fine.
Fuck your condolences, that kind of thing. That very much was when I lost my grandfather. A lot of people came up to me to offer their condolences out of kindness, good intention, but condolences, I felt I was almost trying to make them feel better. So saying, okay, thank you, I acknowledge your condolences. Doesn't make me feel any better, but I acknowledge your good intentions. But in this moment, nothing you say is going to take this hurt away or make it feel better. It's not possible for your words to do that, but thank you. Also, fuck off. So that's sort of kind of that mentality, that feeling, bringing that into that moment. And similarly, Mael often saying, sometimes growing up in Lumiere, it felt like there were just some things she didn't understand, that she didn't fit. Like everybody else in the world understood something that she just didn't understand. Like she's missing something. That also very much was a reflection of how I felt growing up a lot of times. I actually grew up in the area, Bay Area, South Bay. But a lot of times, growing up, it felt a little bit lonely, feeling like, I don't feel like I understand kind of how certain things are, and feeling like I'm on the outside looking in. So really sitting with some of those emotions and trying to empathize with Mael in that way. Empathy is very, very important, I think, when writing characters. Have to be able to empathize with what they're thinking, how they're feeling, how they're feeling in any particular instance.
That's beautiful, and it really resonates because I remember in that scene with Mael talking about the lack of condolences, like, this feels like a real moment, and to know that it was inspired by something so real just absolutely makes a lot of sense. Um, I know that in the stories you're going through the world, you see different journals for the different expeditions. I remember there's one with like, are they shirtless or are they? What is going on with that? I am so confused.
The power of their unbridled muscles, and clothes kind of get in the way of that. So yeah, have to unleash the power.
Without going into specifics, because I know that you can't talk about things yet to come, how much of the world has been built for Clair Obscur? Because, you hint at the writers, you hint at this war, all these things going on. How much of this world has been built already?
Quite a lot. So my personal philosophy is that we need to have a very full idea of what the world looks like. We need to build our playground first. Then we let the characters play. I find that if you let the characters play and then you're building the playground as you go, you can very easily end up with plot holes, or you end up with situations that feel paper thin. So one of the things that we started out from the very beginning was we built out a full history of Lumiere, a whole history of the world from before the fracture to through the end of the game. And also outside, sorry, these are all spoilers, outside the canvas world, what is the history of all of the Descent family? How did they meet? What was happening growing up? And really, it's in part because it's sort of like painting, right? When you're painting, you don't just paint to the edges of the canvas. You want to paint past the edges of the canvas because then you don't have any white spaces at the edges, right? It's like that. Like we need to have a very full understanding of the entire world. Then actually writing becomes a lot easier because now you have a lot of material there that you can just pull from. So rather than saying, I need a hobby for this person or I need a memory that they can draw from, I actually already have a whole history of that character, and I can think about what is the most relevant memory to pull from since I already have a coherent idea of what happened to them. I also believe that for character consistency, again, it's that concept of we are a reflection of our experiences, the influences in our lives. So to design a character, I feel like you need to understand all of those things to get to who the character is. If you just design a character just from, it's this personality trait, that personality trait, they don't necessarily hang together, or they don't necessarily, or they fit together like a salad but not a soup, if that makes sense. And so you really need to understand the entirety in its whole, as a whole, and then you can pull out the elements that you need.
I mean, that is amazing, but it is also a very big commitment. Is this something that you would recommend for any narrative designer looking to build a world to set a game in?
I think it depends on the type of game. There are some games that are iconic because they don't do that and they find a lot of like cool random things, and it's the absurdity of the things that kind of juxtapose together that makes it really awesome. And so not all games need to do this, but I think it really depends specifically on what you are trying to do, what kind of story you're trying to tell, what type of game it is. So definitely not necessary for all games and all stories.
Were there any rejected storylines that will not happen later, because I don't want to spoil anything? Were there any that were thrown out that were just deemed too ridiculous to include?
Not necessarily. I don't think we ever really go like, oh, that's just too insane. No, not really. I think the way that we think about things is always rooted in you start by what is there and then you grow outwards and what things might connect to other things. So even when you leap forward, you're leaping forward from a not crazy far from your starting point. So you're leaping forward when you're sparking ideas. We're not necessarily going all the way over here randomly. Yeah.
And what would your advice be for narrative designers that are looking to build stories with these kind of worlds, that are looking to build something that is rich and resonant and can carry through into future games?
I would say number one, understand your characters. Understand your characters and what it is that they want. What is it that they are struggling with internally? What's their trauma? Some of the advice I often give to folks is curiosity, empathy, and logic. those are 3 of the skills that you're going to need as a storyteller. And be curious about the world around you, be curious about the people around you, empathize with them so that you can understand why people think the way they think, why they do the things that they do. And that in turn will help you write better characters, and it will help you build better worlds. And again, and the last one is logic, because when we are writing fiction, right, there is suspension of disbelief, but that's not a blank check, right? Like there are certain we have an unspoken agreement with the audience in terms of there still needs to be internal consistency. So really rooting a lot of what's happening within plausible logic, but then allowing your creativity to then spark from there. So yeah, curiosity, empathy, and logic.
And those are all fantastic pieces of advice. And to kind of go along with that, you have writers and narrative designers, writers, artists, visual artists working together, which is kind of ironic considering that it's about a war between them. There's the integration between those teams is so apparent in the story and how it looks and feels. How did that happen? How did you make sure that there was so much integration and coordination between those departments and something that others can take inspiration from?
I think there are a couple of elements. One, it's a small team, and that's one of the benefits of having a small team is that the disciplines sit closer to each other, and there's more communication and cross-pollination. I think another thing is that we were iterating constantly, and we are a narrative first game, so we started with narrative, and art and combat and level design, and they're all kind of, and character were all kind of moving in parallel. And then as things change in one team, you'd want to reflect that across all the teams. So there was so much iteration across all the different disciplines, and I think with each iteration, we're thinking about what else is going on with the other teams. And I think ultimately it also comes down to our creative director, Guillaume Broche, and just really bringing all the different pieces together into one coherent vision.
I remember I logged into the game like a couple of weeks ago before getting ready for GDC Festival of Gaming, and I look next to the Tour d'Eiffel, and oh my gosh, there's a new island there, and it's very bright and colorful. What is going on? I go over there, and it's Verso's Drafts, which I had not known was actually coming. So it was very surprising and amazing to me.
And like, oh, is this New Game Plus? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. We've seen an increasing trend among games, particularly smaller games, from big games from smaller studios, of having free DLC. Because, we had a trend of paid DLC for a very long time, but you have God of War Ragnarok, you have Baldur's Gate 3, Clair Obscur Expedition 33, providing this extra free content, which is time for you, but it's not something you're immediately getting a return on. Why do you think it's important for studios to offer this extra content for their players?
Good question. I'm not sure I'm qualified to answer that. I'll just say from our team internally, how we were thinking about it, we were so appreciative of the warm embrace by our fans, by the players, and this far exceeded our expectations. The sheer love that the community has shown to us, this was really our way to say thank you. And that's why we called it our thank you update. And that's why at the end of the scene with Verso, his last words are thank you, because it really is a way for us to show our appreciation to the community that supported us, that showed up for us, that are really just embracing the characters, the story, sharing it with their friends, and just helping spread the love. Really, it was just thank you. Thank you to everybody.
And last question I had for you is, what do you personally love about making games?
Oh, so many things. One thing that actually has struck me most since being at GDC is just being around other very creative, brilliant, wonderful, passionate people. It is remarkable what, sorry, I'm going to get a little cheesy here. It is remarkable what humans can achieve together, right? Like just look around us, and this is the combined efforts of so many people's labor of love. And the fact that we can come together and we can create something that entertains, something that helps people connect with their friends, something that helps people perhaps process some feelings of their own or come to realizations about themselves, or that just helps them take their mind off of something. So sometimes we need that, right? And it's just an incredible honor to know that we are able to touch each other's lives in this way. And so for me, that's maybe the best thing about making games, is being part of this community of incredibly, incredibly creative, talented people that just love games. And it's fun. It's fun. So yeah.
Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us today. And thanks to
Thank
all
you
of you
very
for joining
much.
us as well.
Thank you so much for being here.
And this has been the GDC Side Quest podcast. And now back to the main quest.
Man, Beth, that conversation was great. Jennifer is so cool.
She is cool. She was so nice and so forthcoming. And I will note that after the interview, she stayed for probably at least 30 minutes just talking to developers because it was a standing room only audience. Like, we had a lot of people there and they all wanted to talk to her afterward, understandably.
Yeah.
And she stayed, she signed autographs, she talked to people about their methods. It was just really inspiring to see the connection that she has with the game industry.
Yeah, and not to overhype, the wonderful event, that we're both affiliated with, but that's one of the reasons GDC feels so great, right? Is you don't just get to listen to, your peers in the industry who make great stuff. You just, kind of get to chat with them, whether you bump into them around the corner, whether they stop to talk after doing this kind of thing, whether you're at an event, anywhere like kind of around the show floor, like I've said this in another interview, but they're your peers, they're your professional peers as well as people you look up to, and that's just a great thing about the show.
And there's a real great back and forth. There's a real strong mentorship community in the game industry. You see a lot of people helping lift each other up. And that's really what GDC Festival of Gaming is about. It's about lifting up developers and game industry professionals and giving them the opportunity to grow their skills and also to connect and to, be able to get an autograph from somebody who wrote the game that you love.
Yeah, there's something Jennifer said in there that really, really hit me like a truck, which was as writers, we sit in that emotion and we think about all the ways that we are feeling and how would the character react in the situation, what kinds of words would the characters use. That gets into something I've been thinking about my own writing, both on Game Developer and elsewhere, about how the process of not only trying to understand how we would feel about something, but how, in fiction's case, it's how does the character feel, but these both try to kind of translate to how does the reader, the player, the viewer, how do they feel, right? And I kind of think this is a discipline that can be super easy to apply just to writing and performing. And obviously this year we had the narrative and performance track at GDC that, bound the strengths of those two disciplines together. But I think this goes beyond that, right? Like even down to more technical elements of the games is when you sit there and think about the person on the other side of the screen and practice that empathy in kind of a big way. Like this is actually what makes games something that people really click with, is the fact that someone did that, right? Like someone thought really hard about what the other person on the side of the screen is going to feel. And they took a big leap, and when it works, it works. When it hits, it hits. And I think this is kind of a philosophy, that even though Jennifer said it in the lens of writing, that it applies to the rest of the business too, right? Like that, just when you practice that ability, I think it makes your game better.
I think that bringing yourself into your project is really what can set a game apart. Not just because not just because you're telling a story, but you're also creating a lived experience that somebody is experiencing alongside with you. And the interesting thing about it is oftentimes people will get a completely different takeaway than what you maybe had intended. And that's excellent as well, because we're all, informed by our own experiences and our own narratives. I'm a mom, so the whole storyline with Renoir really hit me in a way that it may not hit with somebody else who hasn't experienced that. It's really amazing just to get to, I just love narrative so much.
Yeah. Yeah. God, once again, we could go on for hours. But unfortunately, just like with Clair Obscur, all good things must come to an end. Yeah. For those of you at home, today's episode was edited by Beth, Elderkin, and Thomas Mason. And just a reminder, Game Developer and GDC Festival of Gaming are sibling organizations under Informa Festivals. Beth, once again, thank you for doing Side Quest with us. And for everyone at home, thank you for listening.